What does it mean to be a king of Dokkan? By my definition, I would say a king is a unit who ruled over the meta of the game for at least a year. I would also say it's a card that is or was essentially necessary to run in any sort of endgame content at the time. As the game ages, metas and teams are constantly changing, but the cards I'm talking about today have forever etched their names in Dokkan's history. If you've been playing Dokkan since the beginning, you'll most likely recognize these units or have run them at some point. Also, if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe to the channel because we're officially back on the grind to 10k subs. Anything is appreciated, even if you want to just comment or drop a like. Now, without further ado, let's get straight into the list. Starting strong with number 5, we have AGL Super Vegito, who came out on Global just before the introduction of the dupe system and broke the game with his well-known counter mechanic. This unit had damage reduction against normal attacks and basically counterattacked with a super for every normal attack he received. He also led one of the best mono teams at the time, and there wasn't a single event that could cause him to really struggle. Even against type disadvantage, he was still the GOAT. This card had so much aura back in the day that counterattacks have become a dying breed simply because of this man's reign of terror. Even once 2 sets of new leaders came out, people were still using Vegito. To put that into perspective for you new players, that's like using the 7th anniversary LRs to this day. Even if they are still usable, they aren't on the same level as the current units. But the thing about Vegito is that despite his age, the stat boost from the new leader skills made him a very valuable pick who could keep up with the newest cards even 2 years later. But when category leads were introduced, he was finally power crept out of the meta. You can tell the devs didn't want to make him good again, because even when he got an Easy A, they made it so mediocre that no one picked him up again. Although with the new Super Easy A's, I have hope that they will do him right and let him shine again, just like they did with SSJ3 Gotenks. They have no excuse to make him suck with how much power creep there's been lately on both JP and Global. Moving on to number 4, I honestly can't make this list without including Orange Piccolo. When he was released, everyone was currently struggling with Red Zone Broly, but the second you brought 2 Orange Piccolos to that fight, it became a battle of just hiding your weaker units and praying they dodge, while Piccolo ate every attack and then nuked Broly. But that wasn't his only purpose, because as time passed, everyone would be blown away by new releases just to come back to Piccolo a day later. Every time Piccolo would drop out of the top 3 convo, a new card would release that would indirectly buff him or his team and immediately push him back to the number 1 or 2 spot. Thanks to Beast Gohan, he is still being used post 9th anniversary, which is crazy. But he's definitely starting to get a bit old now. Regardless, his longevity can be attributed to his insanely tanky kit, support, and giant form. There was a long period of time in Dokkan where putting a fully built Orange Piccolo in front of any attack was completely fine. He's still a great tank, but with events like Gogeta, he's going to need to be in giant form to survive a super attack in the current meta. Piccolo was and is a go-to card in Dokkan endgame events. In his prime though, he carried everyone's teams for a long time, and it's time to give him the credit he deserves as a king of Dokkan. Number 3. This was a very hard decision to make between the TUR Gammas, the first ever 120 leads, and the first DFE LRs, Gogeta and Vegito. And the first ever category leads. I just couldn't pick one. So, I didn't, because I chose the 7th anniversary LRs. Although the cards I just talked about are great as honorable mentions, I think the 7th anniversary LRs deserve the credit. These units ushered in a new era of Dokkan and managed to both stick around for over a year. But specifically, I'm talking about the LR gods. The GT duo had their moment during the anniversary, but they're nowhere near as popular as the god duo. The god duo is the most owned LR in the game, which basically means they're the most popular LR. Not the best LR, but one of the most popular for sure. SSJ4 Gogeta does have the bonus of damage reduction, but not anything that can hold up to today's standards in terms of defense. The gods though, they have dodge, which is an ability that allows them to live a lot longer than the other duo. Gods also have the better leader skill, which some people still use to this day. Obviously their time has passed, but they were the best cards in many situations for over a year. They also came from the most popular anniversary in Dokkan history. These cards were so hyped back in the day because of the characters themselves, and they really changed the game when it came to the end game content. Even now, when they're completely aged out, people still run them. And now we're going to be getting the Easy A for them during the 10th anniversary that's coming up in like a couple months, and they're going to be busted again. Second place has to go to the game-breaking SSJ Blue Vegito, not the tech one, and absolutely not the AGL frauds. I'm talking about the physical type Vegito Blue. He was very similar to AGL Super Vegito, with his passive skill being a counter, but he earns this spot on the list because of his leader skill. This guy changed leader skills forever by having the strongest one in the game at that time. Even though the buff was only Ki plus 3 and 50% to all stats, he led all super types, meaning he was the first rainbow team since Gogeta, who was far outdated as the leader by this point. Up until his release, mono teams were the meta, mostly AGL with Super Vegito and Tech with SSJ3 Gotenks and his 11 key super mechanic. The way mono teams worked is that the leader was the strongest card on the team and the rest were pretty much role players. Essentially, the two leaders put up big numbers and destroyed events. But now, imagine having a team where you can run 6 ultra powerful characters with essentially no weakness. During this period, there were no red zones or endgame content to force you to use defense or support cards. It was all about damage. So, when you have a team of nuclear bombs and 3 Vegitos all doing counters, every event becomes a walk in the park. This was also during a time period when if you were getting supered in the wrong slot, you could just close the app and redo the rotation to save yourself. So honestly, there was no losing with this team. Villains had a Rose and Buhan, which was amazing, but during this period, super types always had the advantage. Moving on to the number 1 spot, we've got the GOAT STR Gogeta from the Janemba movie. This guy was the first anniversary Dokkan Fest unit and changed Dokkan forever. He was the strongest with the best leader skill and also introduced the concept of attacks being effective against all types. This card was on teams from release almost all the way till the 3rd anniversary, and his EZA gave him a decent second life later on. But in his prime, it was undisputed that he was the best card in the game. Everyone wanted him, and every leader on the friends list was Gogeta. If you didn't have him, you were a bum. Simple as that. I remember getting my allowance together just to pull him. My friend and I even tried to do Dokkan YouTube back then, and the first event we attempted was the Gogeta Dokkan event. The Dokkan landscape for both YouTube and the game was so different back then. Dokkan events were the hardest missions we had, and Gogeta tore those up with his unique and OP kit. Let me know down below if you guys remember playing during this time period. It was definitely dry for free-to-play players, but the game definitely had a cozy feeling to it. Anyways guys, that's my list for the top 5 kings of Dokkan. Let me know in the comments if I missed anyone you thought should be on here. Thank you so much for watching. And I'm back on my grind. A psychic ran my lifeline, told me in my life.